Hello and welcome to Trash Future. If you're in the United Kingdom, then due to the Online Safety Act, unfortunately, we will have to ask you to verify your age. It's simple to verify your age. You simply have to go to a pay point at an off license and attempt to buy a handle of Glen's vodka and the Last Dirty magazine, at which point take a picture of yourself with the cashier and upload that to our very simple and easy to use app, which we will definitely not store in an unencrypted Amazon S3 bucket.
I'm in the folder full of our own listeners' photos of themselves with their mouths open, with their shoes on their heads, holding up like their credit cards in front of the camera. I got to say, some of these are really good.
Mm-hmm. I think that more of our listeners to listen to the show should have to cut themselves in half and then show us a picture of the rings.
I think that like the verification, we should do like a sort of like facial recognition thing, but for some reason, like because we've sort of like half-assed it, it doesn't work if you just take a picture of your face as is. You have to be doing like the Ahigal face.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing is, the British government is so fucking needy, right? Like, not only are like, send me a pic, send me another pic, send me one from this angle, one with your mouth open, one with your panties pulled to the side. And I'm just like, can you fucking freaks leave me alone, please?
I'm so excited for how this inevitably, like, not necessarily ends, but like the inevitable story in a couple of years, which is that the people who did do the facial recognition so that they could access Pornhub without like a VPN are all like fucking MPs.
Yeah, that's going to leak.
Yeah, it's going to leak, but also like all their weird porn habits are going to leak because, you know, like Pornhub do that like report every year, which like I'm not entirely sure is real. I do think a lot of it is bits.
Doing the Spotify This Is You for the year on Pornhub and that all gets leaked.
On Spotify, it's called This Is You. On Pornhub, it's called Is This You?
Weirdly, it's like unwrapped in both senses.
Yeah.
I'm excited to find out in like a year's time what Keir Starmer has been jerking it to. Not sure why there's so many Ukrainian twinks. Not sure why it's all kind of based around arson. I'm not sure how that particular kink plays into it, but like, sure, whatever. Older sugar daddy buys middle-aged otter clothes.
There's this great new category of BDSM that's all about getting outed in national press as an arsonist. And it's like you and 3 of your friends can do it. And like, I guess Starmer's in like the D role because he's outing them to the national press as arsonists.
I mean, the thing is, right, as we've established, the one guy who runs Britain is now also going to be an age verification officer, which means that job is going to go to the grottiest cunt in Britain, who is going to sit behind a desk in like a ruined Macintosh and be like, yeah, I reckon you look 18.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Awful.
Terrible. It's just the office is just school gates.
We have made efficiencies. I was venturing towards a Starmer there, but I'm going to bail out of it. Like Starmer being like, we've made efficiencies, right? Because if the entire civil service can work out of one Renault Clio, then the savings on office space are going to be immense.
Well, I was thinking about the Online Safety Act, and it's something I've wanted to discuss for a bit, but we, like, for a bunch of different reasons, just haven't managed to get to, partly because of because I even intended to talk about it at a live show, and then we just got too drunk.
Yeah, something happened there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to log into the notes that we were going to use to talk about it, and then I had to, like, post 15 photos of myself by mail to the government.
Yeah.
Me with a shoe on my head, like
buying a lottery ticket. Complaining that the lottery funds the woke National Trust, stuff like this. I think there should be more stuff in
Please
Britain.
upload a photo of you getting a tattoo and giving a thumbs up with at least one hand.
Please send in a photo of you holding up a bill from Virgin with your wife looking terrified. Yeah. Please upload an illegal sauna that you built in your back garden. Please do 100 laps of your back garden for the NHS. So you could just play a greatest hits of Britain in terms of things you have to upload to look at porn now.
Well, here's the thing, like they've chosen to implement this in such an Orwellian manner when it could be. You could fully hit it with like only 90s kids will remember, and that would be a pretty decent cutoff. All of the cultural stuff. Be like, do you remember Busted? If you do, sure, jerk off to your heart's content to Pornhub.
Yeah, it's like which of these pop punk bands was British? And it's like a multiple choice question. It's like the Life in the UK test, but it's the Jackin' It in the UK test.
If you can identify the band Blue, you are allowed, appropriately enough, to view like adult content online.
Yeah, it's which of these was not in blue? It's like Anthony Costa,
Just like
Robbie Williams.
Some poor kid like hunched in front of the laptop looking at and also playing government video of a plane smashing into the South Tower, and the question, what is this? And be like, I don't know. Was this Mr. Beast or something? I don't know what this is.
Yeah, it's the 20th hijacker was filming himself on like a flip phone being like, social experiment.
It was weird that they found Jimmy Beast's passport just on the street in Manhattan.
Jimmy Beast?
Yeah, Jimmy Beast.
Yeah,
That's his name. Yeah, Jimmy
That's
Beast.
his name, Jimmy Beast. Yeah.
Mr. Beast. That's what they call him that.
Oh, please, Mr. Beast was my father.
Oh, I know the other good one, the other good test, because like they're sure you could test if you're older. Anyone can test if you're above a certain age, but can you catch out someone who's under 18, right? Like what if the test was, it's like, all right, give us your email address, and then within 24 hours, we'll tell you if you're allowed. And what they do is they send you an email that looks like it's from Jimmy Donaldson. And it's like, do you want to be in the Mr. Beast video that's like coming out next
If
week?
you click on that, you're barred from like all content online. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it establishes your age perfectly based on how long it takes you to click on it. The only problem is I guess it would be sending by email. So it's like we're sort of fishing in the wrong pond here. But look, listen to us. This is all better. And crucially, a lot of our ideas have been less invasive than what the government is actually doing.
This is true. But think about this, right? By doing all of this, by making everybody post videos of themselves getting tattoos in order to look at Wikipedia, right? We have protected children from horrendous grooming, the likes of which Jimmy Savile famously did on the internet, not through being connected to like politicians and stuff. And if you have a problem with anything that you're being asked to do, if you have a problem with being asked to upload your last 6 months of bank statements in order to like open YouTube or Spotify, you are in alliance with, if not actively conspiracy with, Jimmy Savile from Beyond the Grave.
Yeah, Jimmy Savile is running you from beyond the grave like a mob boss running his organization out of prison. If you're against this. But like, honestly, and by the way, American listeners, Nova said you have to upload 6 months of bank statements after we just did a bunch of bits about ridiculous stuff that you have to do. That's a real one. That's a real thing that they will ask you to do to prove your age. And it's like, and then they have to ask your bank, would you lend money to this person? They're like, yeah, they're above 18. They're like, okay. The same thing with your mobile phone provider. The same thing. I believe we touched on this very briefly in an episode you weren't here in Nova last week. We didn't talk about it that much. But like, you also can give them access to your emails and it will scan with AI to see if there's shit like utility bills in there.
Yeah, it's like, have you been writing letters to the editor of the Telegraph or whatever?
Yeah.
I mean, genuinely,
sorry, you're
someone
too old to engage with Bonnie Blue. I'm afraid you're too old.
I would support this if it were an upper age limit. If it were like, okay, over the age of 60, no more internet for you, Grandpa. Like, you're just gonna have to go and play like shuffleboard or whatever it was you were doing back in the 17th century.
Imagine how like less cooked society would be if we did like Logan's Run, but reverse and with an upper age limit for accessing the internet. Or like you get hived off.
Too old to jerk off by government fiat. It's like, so sorry. For your own safety, you're too old to know who Bonnie Blue is.
That's right. I was going to say that that's also like the thing that we could personally lobby the New Left Party / your party to have in their manifesto. There should be a pledge that says that you are too old to jack off. And Jeremy Corbyn like fronting that, I think would be a very powerful message.
I'm going to be in the Your Party digital working group advocating for this very strongly. It's like upper age limits for driving and wanking.
Yeah. Getting kicked out of the Your Party meetings because you keep just like hammering that the only thing you care about is implementing an older age limit for jerking off. So Zara Sultana's like, please, for the love of God, just like say something else. What do you think about like farming policy?
It's like
older age limit for jacking off.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, here's the thing, right? By analogy with driving, I guess we could continue to allow older people access to the internet if every, let's say, year they recertified, they passed a test to prove that they could handle being online and they weren't cooked.
Yeah, we sort of joke about that, but actually, I think number one, I don't think that's like such a bad idea.
showing them the like AI Facebook slop like shrimp Jesus and being like,
Yeah.
just explain in your own words what the deal is with this.
Or it could be like the drivers, like, you know, when you have to get your provisional license, and so you've got to like watch that simulator, and you're like constantly looking at that bush because you think that someone's going to jump out of it, right?
An online hazard perception test?
Yeah, but for like, you know, online culture.
Okay.
And I don't know necessarily how it would work, but I feel like, oh yeah, like is like Shrimp Jesus coming out behind the bush while you're driving the simulated car?
Click here when you think you're about to be radicalized.
I think I have the synthesis here, which is a Voight-Kampff test for elderly Britons.
Did you fight in World War II? No, but did you fight in World War II?
Or then you're shown a picture of like a paraplegic puppy holding a paintbrush that's like, nobody loves me on my birthday. And it's like, how does this make you feel? There's a puppy in a wheelchair. It's holding a paintbrush.
You were born in 1959. Did you fight in World War II? Yes. Slamming the yes button, weeping at the memory of Dunkirk. It's Trash Future, by the way. Hi.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Hi, everyone. It's Nova, Riley, and Hussein. It's TF. You know the drill. So look, I want to talk a little more about the online safety bill, just because like this fits perfectly into this whole category of British thing, which is, in this case, it was proposed by the Tories. It was brought in by Labour. It's being defended now to the hilt by Labour.
Yeah, and being, of course, attacked by those famous files in Reform UK, right? As the Labour Party would have it. Now, here's the thing. If you like cast the dice into the future and you were like, the Labour Party is going to be campaigning on calling Reform files, I would have been broadly in favor of that, right? But under these circumstances, it's the stupidest possible way for it to happen.
Yeah, you should be calling them that just on its own merits, like not as a response to something else.
It's like we're in favor of calling them files, but not as an ad hominem, only as like an evidence-based argument.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it libelous to call a party files? I think maybe.
Okay, we'll beep a lot of that. Anyway.
The blanker files at Reform UK could be almost anything. I could have been saying wiener files. You don't know. Maybe they really love a nice wine.
Yeah, the audio files over there at Reform UK.
Nigel Farage and his party of cinephiles.
Nigel Farage just sitting in Parliament, not responding to it, like a question that's being asked by the speaker, because he's listening to like tube amped headphone. He's listening to like the Steely Dan album like Asia on perfect tube amp headphones, and he's just like blissed out and in another world. Yeah, those fucking audio files.
Yeah, Labour didn't even mean that. That was just a fuck up in the briefing papers, and Stan was like, you want me to call them water files? Sure, got it, whatever.
I'm not going to read it twice. I'm not made of time.
I skim read.
Yes, I skim read because I only have time to read when I'm driving. But what's that?
It's also, this explains a few things, because it means when he was director of public prosecution, he's like, why do I need to know about Jimmy Savile being an audiophile? Not a criminal offense, no matter how much he spent on his hi-fi cables.
Look, as a Labour government, we will make audiophilia a criminal offense.
Finally, some like policies I can actually support.
Be like, look, we're no longer going to do moral panics. We're just going to declare war on random groups of enthusiasts.
Convicted audiophile because you once bought you got upsold on the gold cables.
Yeah, it's you get stung. You get stung by the police, like, into buying like some vintage Bowers and Wilkins.
In a headlock in a McDonald's car park by a bunch of audiophile hunters who only want to listen to like Capital Radio on the stereo that came with the car.
Oi, mate, what speakers you got in that car? And then they just stick an iPhone in there, and it's just like, it's as I thought.
You know, they have to keep audiophiles in a separate wing of the prison, because if normal criminals got at them, it would be like a bloodbath.
They have to keep them in a special audio treated wing of the prison that's got like baffling on it. Like, they're so shitty about movie night. They don't even care what movie they watch. Oh my God. I so wanted to talk about the Online Safety Act, but I was too delighted talking about the audiophiles thing. Okay, Zen.
Yeah, with these migrants, you don't know which one of them is an audiophile. You don't know which one of them has like really, really, really controversial opinions about Dolby surround sound.
Yeah, that's the thing about these migrants. They're from a different culture. They don't understand THX. They've never sat in front of a speaker and had a martini blown off their chair, and that's why they'll never integrate. Oh my god, I have to like summon the 14 wines mindset in order to like continue getting through what I actually wanted to say about the online safety bill. So here's the thing, right? There is the way that this is working, of reminding Americans as well, is that internet companies with a very broad brush have been told by the British state that they can be fined 10% of turnover globally, which for like, I don't know, Spotify is like 11 billion pounds, like some like consequential sum of money, if they fail to protect children from harmful content online. This isn't just stuff like pornography, although that's like a big part of it. Also, it's stuff that could be deemed like gore. However, that means also like Al Jazeera has been roped in to this as well, because it's like, seeing images Wikipedia. Of... Yeah, well, indeed. So yeah, like seeing images of like, what Israel is doing in Gaza, that's considered now to be unsafe for children. And to be honest, I would agree. But it's okay, well, now you have to verify your identity if you want to follow, the news about like the global atrocities that we are supporting as a country.
Yeah, like it's not to say that there aren't like online harms, right? It's to say that this is one of the dumbest possible ways you would try to go about preventing them.
Well, quite. I mean, you could almost imagine that maybe the solution to online harms isn't just another piece of software, but the solution to online harms is, for example, social, right?
Yeah, and it's also, I don't think you have to be particularly paranoid to see a kind of stalking horse here of de-anonymizing or like sort of identifying individual internet users along the kind of broad political axis of do not at me on Twitter, I will have you arrested, that every Labour MP seems to be very, very fond of.
Yeah, some now actually are sending the police to constituents' houses for emailing them. Yeah.
Oh, I know. That's in fact what I'm referencing. I mean, like, and so if you then have the kind of drive from that to be like, okay, well, if you want to use the internet in the UK, then you have to sort of like with your ISP or with the government or however it's going to be like implemented, you have to have like an identifier to you that is like hooked to your driver's license or something, right? Or you know, whatever it is. And right now it's just, well, we want the kind of sense of that, but we don't want to implement any of that ourselves. So we're just going to like throw it to Spotify or Pornhub or Reddit or Wikipedia to be like, okay, you guys develop a system of age verification. And if it isn't good enough or it doesn't work to our satisfaction, we will fine you $infinity trillion. And so that's where, aside from being just a boon to whatever company wants to flog its age verification system, this is where it's you get this like thing of, okay, we'll just post like a photo of you getting a tattoo holding a handle of vodka.
Yeah, well, in fact, we've talked about one of those companies before, Yoti, Y-O-T-I. We talked about them like years ago, in fact, and saying more or less exactly what we're saying now.
Trash Future, never knowingly behind the news.
Yeah, that's right. Sometimes way too ahead, and then we forget, and then it's like we're behind. But it's because we need an archivist. Anyway, so basically, right, there is this, and then there's this other fear, which I think is quite reasonable, which is that, well, especially for stuff like, there's on the one bucket, there's stuff like pornography, stuff you wouldn't want people to know. It's a compromat file now being generated, connected to your name. They say, okay, well, we don't store your photo, we delete it immediately. And it's like, okay, prove that. Prove that you've deleted my photo immediately. Or also, it's even saying, oh, well, we don't store any of your details. We just create a token that then these companies will trust from us and then allow you to create an account. But then you have an account. And so then if because you have to have an account, if then that company gets hacked, there are now way more identifiable people next to all the content that's been consumed. And then there's on the other hand than that, right? I want to put all the porn stuff into one separate bucket, right? Because there's lots of other things that if it were leaked, that if you were browsing them, could cause serious personal harm. And the thing that I come back to is the fact that, guess what? A lot of the subreddits about being trans are now age locked, right?
Mysterious. Yeah. Curious. Yeah. Interesting.
What if you're questioning your gender identity and you're from a conservative family? Now there is a verifiable identity linked record of you having browsed like Reddit/r/transgender questions.
And it's not just that. It's any number of things where, as as you say, that it might be kind of harmful to have that disclosed. Like even like sexual health stuff about like alcohol use or like drug use or gambling.
Making a cider, our cider is like you have to sort of, or at least like you had to like show some ID. So if you want to like make like a relatively accessible alcoholic drink using some nice apples, like you can't do that without getting arrested these days.
Your politics have to be traceable to. And I guess the other thing I would say about this is even the stuff that seems kind of innocuous, right? Where you're like, oh, I guess sure, I'll just give them my face or my ID or whatever in order to look at this. It's like kind of as a basic principle of cybersecurity, so much of your shit is incredibly identifiable off of like one or two things being known about you. And those things can be completely mundane.
This feels like the most sort of like, again, it's very much emblematic of like how Britain sort of deals with its social and political problems through outsourcing. But it's just like the contradictory advice you're sort of given about like, okay, protect your information online. Don't give your photos out to anyone that you don't know. Like a lot of like being online now is very much like basically there are so many ways for people to get your passwords, to get your personal information. It's very easy to sort of like string a location. You know, if you're a stalker, for like it's like more easy to be stalked than ever before. You know, you are basically told like in sort of like internet awareness classes that like this is a very easy way to die, right? This is a very easy way to die or get arrested or get into trouble, etc., etc. It also happens to be the only way that you can engage with society in any form. And as we sort of continue to securitize things over like largely moral panics that are not really grounded in any sort of particular evidence and are mostly guided by like a commentariat that has no idea what they're talking about, you end up with like a system where it's like, okay, all the things that you're being told are dangerous to do and could sort of get you into a lot of trouble or could sort of compromise you are also like things that you have to do in order to sort of like survive, right? Or in order to sort of like have any type of sort of social life that has to be digitally mediated. And so this isn't just a case of like accessing, it's not just a case of like accessing porn. It's not even like just because when like people talk about like the fact that like this eventually comes for everyone. And you have like, you know, smarmy dickheads who are just like, well, I actually just read theguardian.com every day, so I'm fine. Or like, you know, that their sort of like online life is sort of like free websites and they sort of never jack it except like to their wife and stuff, like whatever they sort of say, right? Whatever they like lie about.
Sure.
You know, the sort of the point of this type of securitization is that it never ends, not least because like once you open the box, or like the box was already open, but once you kind of continue opening the box, like there's no sort of putting it away. There's no sort of going back. I don't imagine there's any situation really where there's like any sense of kind of like regret or any sense of like attempt to rethink like whether this actually works or not.
Oh no, it only turns one way.
So what we're also going to deal with is like, okay, well, once it's sort of admitted that like the Online Safety Act doesn't really work, the answers that are going to be given are like, well, we just sort of need to beef it up more. And you already see like politicians kind of doing that right now anyway, right? Like, you know, talks about banning VPNs, for example, which like, you know, Riley probably knows more about that than I do in terms of like whether that's feasible or not. But there's also talk about banning like legal porn, like, you know, so you know, this was supposed to sort of be a way of like preventing like children from accessing adult websites, but now it's like, okay, we're going to use this to like ban specific kinds of porn. We're going to use this to ban specific kinds of content that we deem to be like dangerous. And obviously that's going to seep into like political like, you know, politics more than anything, because, you know, like rise of different types of extremisms. But more importantly, it's like, well, we also have a kind of counter extremism program that gets to determine what an extremist is without any real guidelines, and no one really knows how it works, and no one's really allowed to know how it works. So if you happen to be like a left-wing activist or anything, yeah, this is probably like coming for you as well. Or even like if you happen to be like a liberal activist, this is probably coming for you as well.
Oh yeah, the led by donkeys guys are going to Guantanamo. But like I've been thinking about this too, because I've been wondering about how you, for instance, get a job that requires like, say like a security clearance, right? What the kind of envisioned use of the internet there is. And I genuinely feel like at this point, to be that person, you need to have this kind of monk-like existence where your entire life you have had one email address that you have used only for job applications. And you're like, I never need to like read anything on Wikipedia. I never need to like watch anything on YouTube. I never need to have any kind of experience with social media. And I just like have this one thing and nothing else outside those kind of like very rigidly defined lines of what is like appropriate internet use. And then that's such a strange, unsupportable standard that now I guess everybody's going to be in. It's like it's a bad law for a number of reasons, like technical ones, political ones, but also just on a practical level. It's so alien from the way that most people live as to be almost unenforceable, I would suggest.
And what we want our economy to be.
Well, also, yes.
That's specifically what the people who are making this law, they're like, okay, digital Britain, everything on the computer. Everything's computer in Britain from now on, forever. You know, we want everything to be computer. We want AI scrapers on everything.
But what if we made that as hard as possible?
Yeah.
What if we like tried to get as much tech stuff to come in here as possible, but we also made it extremely difficult for them to like roll out products to consumers? And again, this is very much like indicative of how this government sort of thinks about policy making and its attempts to sort of like placate everyone and in turn sort of making everyone mad about it.
So the other thing, right, and going back to it, is that again, if you're going to be harmed as a child, it's going to be by someone who's powerful, by someone that you know. It could be, for example, just picking an organization at random, the South Yorkshire Police.
Interesting. Curious.
Yeah.
Why'd you pick them out of the hat?
Because they were too woke to... No, sorry. I'm getting an update on the ticker. It's that they were as complicit as everybody else, apparently, in child abuse in Rotherham. And none of this was mediated by the internet, except maybe incidentally, right? These are things that are actual power relationships between people.
Yeah, well, I remember us talking about Rotherham and saying at the time that the reason why the police kind of like let child traffickers get away with it wasn't because they were afraid of being called racist. It was because they didn't want to do their jobs because they would be like found to be complicit if they investigated themselves. So it now seems. So again, like the sort of enforcement side of this is just ripe for kind of corruption, which is also great. I think that's good when that happens.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, if you want to talk about how the Labour Party is defending it, right, is like 10 minutes after it went live, they were like, oh, so you just want to let all of the pedophilia rip. You want to live in the Britain from the Chris Morris special, Pedogeddon, right? And it's like, I didn't know that's where we were living before. Until 10 minutes ago, that's what it was. Like, they're talking about this fucking thing like it's the NHS. Like, the Labour Party's making these scare ads about, oh, Nigel Farage wants to remove safety protections online for children that have been there for 10 minutes and, like, aren't popular. Yeah, he does, apparently.
It's like we have to go back to the completely unacceptable status quo that there was, you know, last week.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's very funny that the Labour Party have sort of like correctly realized that like one of the ways that you can mobilize people is through like fears of being a nonce, right? Or fears of nonces. But they've kind of executed it in such a bad way that even like the most easiest like constituency to sort of placate are like, yeah, no, this isn't it, guys. This is not it. Like, I think only they could have fumbled it as much as they have.
It's also like the only thing that they've bothered like defending with their full chest as well. Like everything else has been this kind of really tepid thing, except until now something has changed, I guess, because like, you know, there's the sense that Starmer is on the way out, and so like Streeting and Rayner are kind of on maneuvers that now it's like, all right, fuck internet users and fuck doctors, which is an interesting position for a government to take, I guess.
Hey, you know what else is fun? And this might just be because they already have to have age verification, but you know what's not blocked by these age verification tools?
What's that?
Gambling.
Oh, well, I mean, it's not like there's any connections between the Labour Party and the gambling industry in this country, right? Again,
it's like you do already usually have to prove to a gambling website that you're 18, but there are lots of ways that you can gamble with, I don't know, cryptocurrency, for example, you know, that children often engage in, right? There are
using this as an end run around by like getting into Wikipedia by posting like a photo of yourself in a high stakes poker game.
Yeah, as a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Also, I know this is a little bit old news, but I did want to talk about it. Which was, of course, the release of the Epstein birthday book.
Yeah. Speaking of audiophilia.
Yeah, well, indeed. And shortly after this was released, I mean, Trump has now been continually under pressure from loyalists in his own administration, who were all true believers, by the way, that he was like a white hat Epstein guy. right? You know, like Kash Patel is like a true, like Dan Bongino, true believers, guys who are like, yeah, he was only on the island to find the real Preds, you know? And so now Trump is being consistently more and more under pressure, having to say, well, wait, why? When do you cut ties with Epstein? Why? And also because Trump doesn't have Mnuchin around him anymore. Doesn't have Mattis. He doesn't have Reince Priebus.
He doesn't have those people, but he's also like the dementia is starting to hit. Like this is apparent if you look at Trump, he's kind of losing it, right? Which is why he's going on these weird detours, but it's also why he's volunteering details that are the most incriminating sounding things in the world. Like for instance, when he's like, oh yeah, like his longtime position has been, I knew Jeffrey Epstein, and yes, the quote that he said about like liking girls on the younger side is something that he said, but he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago for being a creep. And then Trump, unprompted, said, yeah, I broke sort of relations with Epstein because he poached Virginia Giuffre from the spa where I employed her after the first set of allegations against him came out.
Yeah.
What the fuck, dude? What? Sorry, what? Like the now recently deceased, like preeminent victim of Epstein's crimes was working at your spa, and you got mad that Jeffrey Epstein headhunted her at the age of like 15? I think this guy's a fucking audiophile. Like, I think he's buying the Bang & Olufsen headphones.
I think if Rex Tillerson was in the Trump 2 government, just when he was about to say, oh yeah, I considered him to be a rival Chomo, then like Trump would have been like black bagged before he got one syllable out.
And the thing is, he's got like 3 more years of this as well. Like of maximum scrutiny and like also he's going to war with Rupert Murdoch about it because as much as Rupert Murdoch is a gigantic fascist, he also enjoys fucking with people, and the new editor of the Wall Street Journal is this kind of like sort of journalism vampire. So she's been pushing this, which is wherefore they found the like cards from both Trump and Clinton being like,
and Mandelson
being like, loved checking out your hi-fi setup, wink wink, kissy kissy, and that doesn't hit as well anymore now either because like the Clintons are a spent force politically, so it's like the Democrats don't really even feel the need to be like, this doesn't mean anything, and it's just like it feels like we're getting to the point where this is a story that's unsustainable. But then on top of this, Ghislaine Maxwell gets to make a deal with the art of the deal master himself, Donald Trump.
They're calling it the most innocent thing anyone has ever done.
Yeah, of moving her to like low security prison to like control her testimony.
Yeah, moving her to Gulf jail and then somehow getting Jeffrey Epstein's cellmate in the next cell over, whose job is just to like sharpen a knife.
The thing about Gulf jail is that it's actually mostly audiophiles in there, and then it's like, you know, like 3 Samsung guys who got caught on an insider trading beef who are all going to say that they were doing an MBA when they come back to Korea.
It was the 3 Samsung guys are guys who are just like, I just used like a normal soundbar I bought from John Lewis. What are you talking about? So the actual quote here is Trump says, again, asked by a reporter, hey, why did you cut ties with the pedophile? The famous pedophile that all the rich men
a question for which he has had a like pat answer for years.
A pat answer that has been like unsatisfying, but like works well enough to move any line of questioning from reporters on. Instead, he says, he took people. I said, don't do it anymore. You know, they work for me. But he took some others, and once he did that, that was the end of him. People were taken out of spa, hired by Epstein. I told you we don't want you taking our people, whether it's spa or not spa. He did it again, and I said, out of here.
Why was Virginia Giuffre working in your spa, Mr. President? Is a question that yeah.
Yeah, you could ask that as a follow-up.
Yeah.
No, apparently.
Like, shit, I didn't know that. I didn't know that about her.
Yeah.
Okay.
He says, was one of the stolen people Virginia Giuffre? Trump. He stole her. Just grim.
Mr. President, as your lawyer, I am advising you to keep saying this.
Mr. President, as your lawyer, I'm very busy fighting a pierogi-related case right now. I will not be able to comment. As your lawyer, I'm currently individually suing everyone in the world to try to make them send me a Valentine's Day card. So the birthday book continues, and I'm afraid one of our faves has been implicated. And that is, of course, Peter Mandelson, current ambassador to the U.S. I mean, you see why. These guys, like, they go way back. You know, they were in what I guess is like this sort of modern version of Skull and Bones where you're also blackmailed. So as you recall, Mandelson said, "I regret ever meeting him or being introduced to him by his partner, Ghislaine Maxwell. I regret even more the hurt he's caused to many young women. I regret buying that white belt, which was very gauche." So do you think he bought the belt? Because he was just trying it on in the photo. I wonder if he bought it. I says, he went on to add,
not sure.
"I'm not going to go into this. It's an obsession of Frankie. You can all fuck off." This is what he said the last time he was asked about it. So this is from the Wall Street Journal article, Nova, that you mentioned. A letter from the current UK ambassador to the US, Mandelson, included photos of whiskey, a tropical island, and referred to Epstein as, quote, "my best pal."
Yeah.
And yeah.
Why would anyone be obsessed with this? I mean, like, both the Trump and the Clinton ones were more forward and less subtle. Like, the Trump one in particular, like, and it genuinely makes me kind of, like, feel a bit sick to talk about. It contains the line, "and may every day be another wonderful secret," which is, I would say, by some margin, the most audiophilic thing I've ever heard in my life. I really think that that's, like, horrible.
Oh, genuinely.
I don't know how we got to this point, or I do, but I don't like any of the steps on how we got to this point. But it's also striking that that existed and people presumably knew it existed, that book, for years. And it now comes out as a result of an internal kind of Murdoch power struggle.
It was Democratic Party Oppo research. They just didn't use it because it implicated Clinton. They had it.
Even when she wasn't the candidate. Just by virtue of the fact that,
Kamala Harris could have used it. I mean, Kamala Harris wouldn't have used it because she would have been like unable to find it because she'd be too like zoomed out on lithium. But like, generally speaking,
Biden could have used it if he was still able to read, you know, but
Biden's like, "I have the smoking gun on the Trump Epstein thing," and he just opens it and it's the worst drawn clock you've ever seen. I mean, and also it's like every new piece of info on Epstein is always like Donald Trump or Bill Clinton or Leon Black. I have Leon Black in here as well, writing something like, "No matter what I say in the future about our relationship now, I want to claim right now on the record that we're close associates who spend a lot of time together, have a secret kind of language, and are clearly very fond of one another, regardless of what I ever may say in the future."
Yeah. Is that the same Leon Black who paid Jeffrey Epstein $110 million for tax advice?
Yeah, it is. It must have been great advice.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, you'd think so for a guy with like no expertise in like tax. It must have been a real like savant, you know.
So good.
Maybe the tax advice was the wonderful secrets. You know, I'm so often when I'm speaking to my accountant about like, you know, business expenses or whatever, that phrase, you know, another wonderful secret, you know, definitely comes to mind all the time, right?
Oh, totally. Like that's how we all talked to Nick, the TF accountant, when he was still the TF accountant. Is we used to message him on WhatsApp and you know, be like, "Greetings of the ecstatic, Nick."
Can I expense this pair of headphones that I bought? By the way, you are my best pal, and I love doing sort of like secret island activities with you.
I love listening to music on tube amps with you. The submission with Black's name had a handwritten poem with a rhyme scheme. The poem included the acronym VFPC with an asterisk that it stood for Vanity Fair Poster Child. 2 lines in the poem read, "Blonde, red, brunette spread out geographically. With this net of fish, Jeff's now the old man and the sea."
Shit poet and audiophile.
Yeah, and like again, like these are some of the most powerful people in the world, gods on earth, like the masters of the universe. Like that's how finance guys always, I don't know if they still do, but like the finance guy thing was like, you want to become the master of the universe, you want to become Jamie Dimon, right? They use that phrase, masters of the universe, and like you're like that. And then you get a call from Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's brother, who says, "I'm putting together a book of perversions for my brother's birthday. Please write a poem."
I'm putting together a Borgia-style GIF.
Yeah, I'm putting together a banquet of the chestnuts for my brother's birthday. God, imagine being the brother. Fuck.
Oh God, yeah. What do you get for the man who has everything? Brackets negative, brackets extremely negative.
Yeah. You get like the most evil people to attempt poetry.
Yeah.
So, you know, and obviously, Team Trump is obviously handling the fallout well, because like so many political operators in the English-speaking world right now, all they know how to do is say, "We're not the other guys who suck, by the way," right? They're like, "We're not the Democrats who suck. The Democrats are corrupt and we're not them." And you tell yourself stories and you want other people around you who tell you those stories. And so you hire the guy that writes the children's book about you. You hire the Facebook man. You have these like fucking like, you know, these goons who know nothing but brazen defiance of mainstream liberal opinion. And now they have to deal with an actual real problem instead of just being able to pull the be a contrarian to mainstream liberal opinion lever. And instead of just running cover, the first thing they do is they say, oh yeah, we fold on everything. And you say, oh, well, CNN is a party political broadcast organ for Democrats. And it's like, yeah, it's half true. But like, if you're Dan Bongino, you don't have a clear...
Everyone knows that, but it's like, if they're doing that and they're saying, why'd you write the, like, another wonderful secret card? The another wonderful secret card doesn't go away from that.
Yeah. Because you act like CNN is Barack Obama calling Wolf Blitzer every day, telling him the script to read. And so because you kind of believe that, you go to power campaigning on like, we're going to release the Epstein files because I guess no one was smart enough to what? Check?
Yeah. The hubris required to campaign on that while knowing it was out there and live and just thinking, well, if it hasn't come out by now, probably no one's going to use it. This sword hanging over my head, it's going to stay out there.
Wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah.
You know, that fraying string, it will never actually snap because by the time it frays half as much as it has to do to snap, it will then have to fray half as much more and then half as much more, and it just never will.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, right, whether it's Pizzagate or like lunatic like race rioters in the UK, right, the way that right-wing politics, and I'm not saying it should work like this, but like the way it's supposed to work so that it functions to do evil, basically, is that you have the Pizzagators and the race rioters, and then you have the people running the Pizzagators and race rioters. And you need to remember that Pizzagate isn't real. You need to remember that like the race riots are largely fomented on the basis of nothing, right? You have to actually perceive reality so you can twist it to manipulate other people.
I see what you're saying. The sort of the tail is wagging the dog now.
Yeah. Because if you hire people in charge, if you hire Dan Bongino, right, or you like put, I don't know, fucking like Lee Anderson into a position of authority, who forget that these things are fake, they cease to be useful to you because instead of discrediting your opponent, you're putting actual effort into locating the basement children, and you find yourself backed into a corner where your guys have been doing exactly as much of this activity that you're being sensationalist about. And what's the point of like, you know, giving all this like limited immunity? Like you're very clearly guilty. And again, it's astonishing to me that like this isn't just inescapable. The opposition party is not making this a completely inescapable message.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, what is there anything left that the Democrats can't fumble, you know?
Well, I guess we'll find out because there's definitely a few long years. I mean, look, we have two sort of sides of the same coin in power across the Atlantic of just relentless fumbling. But I want to leave the world of high politics behind, and I want to talk about the city of Bedford in Britain.
Bedford. Okay.
Bedford.
We're not doing No Gods, No Mayors, right?
No, we're not. Because this person has explicitly ruled out running for mayor.
Okay.
So this is a guy. A guy has emerged. There's a new guy on the horizon, and his name is. Thank you. That was exactly what that deserved.
His name, just a scornful reaction.
Yeah, a sort of a scoff. His name, Peter McCormack. Now, Peter McCormack has been in the news recently because he has decided to hire private security to patrol the town of Bedford to like move on alcoholics and like hassle like homeless people and otherwise like
many such cases in lots of like cities and towns where you have like fake cops.
But these guys have been hired by one rich man who wants to change things up a little bit. Mr. McCormack said, quote, "We used to have policing in this town, but now it was, quote, very, very rare, and that my girlfriend is afraid to visit with her son."
Uh-huh.
Mr. McCormack, a heavily tattooed 46-year-old who made a fortune in Bitcoin and for years hosted cryptocurrency's most successful podcast, co-owns the Real Bedford Football Club with the Winklevoss twins, is determined he will not sit back and watch his town go to the dogs, but that he also won't become a government, thereby meaning that he is not eligible for No Gods, No Mayors.
Okay. local potentate, however, so I think that counts. When you say Real Bedford, are we 100% sure that they haven't been pretentious enough to name it Real Bedford, like Real Madrid?
So thank you for asking. I did look into this. It used to just be called like like Bedford Football Club. And then Peter McCormack renamed it Real Bedford.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah. So Real Bedford FC, by the way, was a League 10 football side that has now become, quote, the first Bitcoin football team.
Sick. Okay.
God. I mean, like, okay, you're spoiled for choice for like unethical football club sponsorships.
Every day I regret that we didn't follow up our plan to buy a non-league football team for pennies during the pandemic.
Perhaps we could have like filmed this and made it into a kind of documentary series.
That's like a feel good TV series. For people with varying knowledge of like football as the game of which it is played.
The thing is, what we do is we go to this town and we both learn a little bit from each other. We take some of that kind of like scrappy like outsider energy, and they get a bit of our like upbeat American like Hollywood showbiz kind of thing. And we both kind of we help each other.
Yeah, they get a bit of our audio engineering knowledge, not audiophilia. So by the way, the Real Bedford FC, by the way, it's this League 10 football club. They bought it. They basically did a YouTubed Welcome to Wrexham with the Winklevoss twins, which sounds wretched.
Yeah.
There's an article from the Times, which coincidentally came out a few days ago, unrelated to what I'm talking about mainly. Thomas Pacchia owns the Pub Key Bitcoin bar in New York, where last September Donald Trump stopped on the campaign trail to buy a cheeseburger.
Pub Key. Okay,
there
sure,
we go.
I get it. That's funny.
First Bitcoin transaction by a current or former president. So they should make a monument. Pacchia screens all of Real Bedford's evening matches in the bar. I watch most of them. It's a beautiful project. McCormick wants to retain Real Bedford's punk attitude with a black-painted, graffiti-covered tunnel, Nirvana-style t-shirts on sale, and a burst of Rage Against the Machine blasting from his phone whenever Real Bedford score a goal.
That's epic, so.
Yeah. He was fined for improper conduct by the Football Association for holding a gun in his chairman's photograph in the matchday programs. So this is one swell dude.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the guy who's like, hey, you know what? I can fix the town. What if we let me, the Bitcoin billionaire, do it?
Sure. What if we called it like Bitford instead of Bedford? What if that?
Oh, maybe that would be good. That.
Maybe that would help.
Yeah. What if instead of Ferd, it was coin?
Yeah.
Just call it Bitcoin.
Doing like a kind of El Salvador on Thames situation.
You know who's been a guest on his Bitcoin podcast?
Motherfucker, I was joking.
Yeah, so he pays for private security guards to patrol the streets of Bitford, armed with body cameras and radios to help deter crime, hostile begging, drug taking, public drunkenness, and general antisocial behavior. The guards from Belmont Guard Security Services will wear body cams, with Mr. McCormick saying he wanted to set up similar to the New York-based Guardian Angels. So I guess not real and never did anything.
Yeah, the long Sliwa, you know, the sort of like long legacy of Curtis Sliwa.
I always said we need a British Sliwa, right? It's killing, talking about killing.
If Trump's an American Perón, this guy is a British Sliwa.
Yeah, he's killing grannies and patting fannies, which doesn't mean what that means in this accent usually. So this is what Curtis Sliwa said. He said people should view his patrols like scarecrows, and that if they spotted someone taking drugs or causing trouble, they would, quote, ask them nicely to move on. For this initiative, he's been dubbed Bitcoin's first Batman and is hoping to entice shoppers back to the town.
Cool.
Yeah.
Again, we can't solve any of the like social problems, so it's a real like kind of dated way of kind of like addressing homelessness, of just like forcing everybody out of town until they come back.
You'd never guess who else he cites as an inspiration.
Tommy Robinson.
No, an American.
Who has been on his podcast, but...
Another New Yorker.
Peter Thiel.
Another New Yorker.
Eric Adams.
No, earlier.
Rudy?
He cites
America's mayor himself?
He cites America's mayor himself as a core inspiration, suggesting that he was going to, again, in his capacity as just some guy, attempt to introduce broken windows policing to Bedford.
Cool.
And also, again, like the whole idea of we are going to solve housing and poverty crisis by getting rid of everybody who does not currently have an address.
Not even arresting your way out of it, because they don't have any like power to do that, but just kind of like moving on. You're pestering your way out of that. It's like it's Oscar Goodman remonstrating with the homeless again.
Yeah. So check out No Gods No
Listen
Mayors.
to No Gods No Mayors. It's a good podcast.
This is where a lot of my references are now planted. But he says, I've been saying for ages that if the police won't fix it, I'll do it for them. They haven't, so here we are. So McCormick tells me, this is from the interview in the Times again, his life story as he comes across as both a savvy businessman and a man on a mission to save his hometown. I want my town to win, he says passionately. He takes me down Crack Alley among the shops near his cafe, where 3 men are smoking drugs in a car.
Well, we shouldn't have called it that. I wouldn't have called it that. Just kind of invites the crack dealing at that point, you know?
And also, it's like the Times journalist is saying, where 3 men are smoking drugs in the car with a smashed back window. And I would just say, if you're a Times journalist, it's like a Times of London journalist, you could, let's say, wonder if there's motivated reasoning going on there. right? Where it's
Yeah,
like, well,
possibly, but you know.
and even if true, right? We know the reasons for this, right? We know the reasons for this is because we've decided to stop funding the stuff that keeps the people safe and inside. But it's the same reason that like deaths of despair are always spiking in like ex-industrial areas. It's the same reason. It doesn't get solved by, you know, any of the things that he's proposing.
Well, it could be an interesting thing for a journalist to like use your capacity to like walk over there and talk to people, you know?
Yeah. No. I think what we're going to do is we're going to let him just like take us through like a Bedford handler. Like when you go to El Salvador.
doing a ride along with a guy who isn't even going on a ride along with some guy.
That's just a car ride. It's just a drive.
Just hanging out, yeah.
Then he shows me the tawdry facade of a boarded up Debenhams that closed 4 years ago, and he complains about how high business rates are putting off budding entrepreneurs. We must be ambitious, he said, a place of economic opportunity, but if a town center is not safe, it does not work. To which again, I would say, you're just, the Times journalist, I mean, obviously this person is, but you're just going to let him say that. You're just going to be like, yeah, the problem is the high business rates. Yep, well, better not ask a follow-up question because we're too busy pointing out all of like the unhoused people. So we won't be asking a follow-up question to that. It's assume it's taxes. It's the taxes, which is why it's like this. Not the, again, chokehold placed on local authority funding by central government. Certainly not that. Not the like, or in fact, also not like that as the economy has changed in places that are, I mean, like Bedford is like a bedroom community for London, right? You know, but even other places in the UK that have dead high streets, right? As the economy has changed, as I don't know, more people are buying stuff initially in big box stores out of town and then online, right? As these like efficiency gains accrue to a smaller and smaller number of economic players, you would say, oh, the taxes are high, as opposed to the economy has changed in such a way that has made a nice thing, the nice high street, obsolete. You wouldn't say, because you would just realize, oh, hang on a minute. This nice thing that I liked, which was a busy, bustling high street with lots of shops and places to sit down and stuff that I wanted to be at, that wasn't made by capitalism. That was an inefficiency of capitalism that it got rid of as soon as it possibly could.
Yeah.
John Tizard, the police commissioner for Bedfordshire, described the move as a, quote, political stunt, and that reported antisocial behavior was in fact the lowest it had been for a long time.
Yeah, but, you know, don't let facts get in the way of a good story, right?
Like, no. But yeah, so this is one hell of a guy, right? McCormick started his career in online advertising in the early 2000s, then got so hooked on cocaine that he couldn't stop doing it ever, ended up getting divorced from his wife, losing his online advertising business, and then getting hospitalized with cocaine-induced heart arrhythmia, which he recovered from through the magic of podcasts.
I mean, listen, I'm never going to denigrate the magic of podcasts, right? They've done a lot for me.
McCormick began listening to podcasts by Rich Roll, an American former drug addict turned ultra endurance athlete. A friendship ensued, and in 2017, he asked Roll for advice on how to start podcasting. So he told me, pick a subject and stick with it. I'd come across Bitcoin in the past because I used to buy cocaine with it, so I thought, that'll do. I got on a plane.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, fine. You know what? It's the closest I can get to cocaine now, I guess. So I said, that'll do. Got on a plane and flew to America to interview people in the industry. And 4 years later, I found myself interviewing the president of El Salvador.
Great. I mean, you know, famously no link between that and cocaine.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So famously no link between that and a gigantic criminal justice system that was initially popular because it was targeting a really genuinely large crime problem, but then immediately became clear that it was just used as a tool of political repression.
I'm sure not.
And just also, just to be clear, just because I said initially popular didn't mean I said it was initially good, just that it was initially popular.
You know what you can listen to about this is a podcast called No Gods, No Mayors, because I wrote an entire episode about Nayib Bukele, and you can hear an interesting theory about him.
I promise I didn't do this on purpose. So just by way of almost ending, McCormick has handed over his Bitcoin podcast after 861 episodes, now hosts the Peter McCormick Show, where he interviews people like Tommy Robinson, as well as Liz Truss, Chelsea Manning, and the canceled historian David Starkey. After my divorce, I was only happy when I got away from Bedford. Travel was therapy, but time heals and Bedford is home. I chased away a lot of the things I wanted in life, but in the end, I like being in my own community with people I know. And I guess, crucially, no one who I find it upsetting to look at, you know?
I guess not, no.
Yeah. So this was something I mentioned as well earlier. He launched this thing called the Bedford Project, which aims to be like a shadow local government run entirely by this podcaster, this Bitcoiner.
Bedford Doge strikes again.
Yeah, he says he wants to create Bedford Doge.
There's already a Bedford Doge. Reform were going to create a Bedford. That's where Shadow Doge came from. It's because they got control of like Bedfordshire County Council.
No, it was Kent County Council, no?
Was it? I could have sworn
Yeah,
it was Bedford
Kent-
Doge.
I'm afraid Shadow Doge came from James Watt, but let's see what she's won.
Oh, god damn it. Okay, well, either way, there's much like online back in the day, there's too many fucking Doges around here.
Well, these are also the only people that like believe in it, because I think what's sort of interesting about the Doge stuff is that like you can sort of see, at least in the state, among like certain liberal commentators, bloggers, etc., who I'm not going to name names, but like people who are like way too into the soup will know who they are sort of starting to admit that, oh yeah, this thing like didn't work, and maybe like Elon was a fucking idiot, and maybe like it was very obvious that he was an idiot. Like the sort of like, and, you know, and I guess even the fact that the US government has basically said like, fuck Doge, we're not doing that, we're just gonna like, we like cutting things for like ideological purposes, and we like saying that we're doing it. But it feels like in the UK at least, like there is like this kind of like reform adjacent group that really still sort of like, they are like the believers in it, and they're still the believers in like, they still think Elon's like great, and they think that he's a genius, and they've sort of like, there is this whole sort of like political, I don't want to say like political movement around it, because it's not really that organized, but it's more just this sense of, I guess they've sort of picked up that like you can sort of use this to enact your own politics of resentment. But a lot of these people like also really lack imagination. And so it comes off as like being very mundane. And it's like, oh yeah, this like county council's got loads of like woke stuff, and we're going to cut it. And what they go in and they realize, oh, like the woke things that they were sort of looking for was like a little section in the library with like a few books on, you know, it's okay to be gay, or, you know, like an LGBT flag that's flown at like half mast, you know, for a couple of weeks in a year. Like those are the things that they've like sort of found in Kent and have made like a really, really big deal out of, right? And it feels like, and so it feels more, it feels more like a signal than anything else. And I imagine with like this guy, like the sort of attempt to develop a kind of Doge is more this sense of, I mean, really what he's trying, it feels like what he's trying to do is like build like a shadow security force, or like a shadow like a shadow local government, I suppose.
Well, he wants to basically take this through this thing, the Bedford Project. He wants to basically organize a block of voters to pressure the council into doing what he wants, which is, again, like crack down on crime, you know, arrest shoplifters, like the stuff that's already illegal, essentially, you know, and, you know, he wants to, and, you know, ignore the fact that we have statutory obligations around social care and so on. But there's something that's really, I wanted to highlight from the Bedford Project, which says, a call to reclaim our town. I want to open with 3 simple questions. Have you noticed the decline in Bedford? Do you think things are getting worse? And do you want things to get better? Have you noticed the decline in Bedford? Yes, certainly. And a lot of places. Do you think things are getting worse? You wouldn't be wrong if you said yes. And do you want things to get better? Well, yes, of course. And right now, I go back to is that this person is using that very real feeling to leverage a private security force for himself in his town, right? If that very real feeling is not directly addressed with the same intensity that it is felt, and it doesn't mean the intensity of tone, but the intensity of an equal and opposite solution, essentially, then there's always going to be a guy who's willing to say whatever he can so he gets his private security force in his town.
Great.
Yep. So really looking forward to the left-wing populism machine getting started again as soon as possible, please.
Name the party. Name the party. Please name the party. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there sort of like arguing for maximum age limits on the internet. So, you know.
Again, November is absolutely joining this party. I'm
a single issue voter, and that issue is get these old cunts off the internet.
Yeah. But also, before we go as well, there's these discussions that like always, every 3 months it seems, there's a discussion about like, should there be like a left-wing dating advice or whatever for young men? Fuck off. Yeah, nonsense. But it's like, do you know what would solve a huge amount of the alienation that you are claiming to want to address? And you're like fucking, you know, this is referring to something Ian Dunt has written about like, oh, we have to counter the sort of fascist sort of dating advice that young men get. And it's like, you know what would make all of these young men feel a lot less alienated, you know, if that's what we want to feel, less alienated, is answering those 3 questions and answering them better.
Sure.
That's just something that popped into my mind. It's like, hey, all these things are connected.
All the stuff about like, you know, we should have like a kind of a leftist thing for reproducing some part of the social fabric that's been torn asunder. It's like that stuff like does fix itself organically and more convincingly if you address any of the root causes. Like, I think you can say that. Like, it's the same whether it's like like homelessness, or why does every, you know, like young white man under 20 think that like Hitler was a pussy? Like it's just just fix the stuff with some socialism and like you don't need necessarily to do a lot of like, and by the way, we're doing a leftist dating night slash silent disco. Like you can just offer like immediate solutions to the stuff that is like, you know, plaguing people's lives. Maybe just a thought. Anyway, doesn't matter for me because I'm not working on that. I'm working on the age limits thing. So
you're on the
best of luck to my comrades in the other caucuses. Yeah,
best of luck to my comrades in the actually doing stuff caucus. I'm in the fucking with the elderly caucus.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is that's my natural place in your party, or I guess our party, it's somewhere where I don't think I can do a lot of damage to the revolution. You know,
so, you know what it is? Somewhere where you can really let really let the whimsy out.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, look, I want to thank everybody for listening to the free episode today. Remind you that there is if you have £4.50, there's a Patreon bonus episode that will be coming out on Friday-ish. So you can listen to that if you want to. I don't know.
You should. It's good. Like,
why not?
I thought it was good.
Why not? Yeah, I thought shy. And also, you could have listened to our Edinburgh live show, where I've never been that drunk recording before, and I never will be again. And something almost happens. Look, thank you for listening. Don't forget to check out the Patreon, and we will see you in a few short days on the very same Patreon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.